What's going on, everyone? Kung here. In this video I wanted to demo what it actually looks like in practice when I'm going through and planning a character and building a passive skill tree associated with that character. So the first thing I want to note is sort of what am I trying to do? Well, my idea is I want to use blood magic as a way to be able to pay for all my skills so I don't have to worry about mana. And so the skill that I want to use this with is Firestorm, and I'm specifically focusing on making this a non-crit build. And so I'm planning on wanting to use around 105 passive skill tree points whenever I'm creating this tree, which will put me somewhere around level 85 or so. And that's pretty typical for about the level of characters that I'm able to get to on a consistent basis. And so you might want to adjust this slightly if you find yourself only getting to level 80, or if you go to level 90, you want to increase the amount of points. And so since I'm going to be using Firestorm, I thought about the supports I want to use, and I want to use Echo and Concentrated Effect as my 3 link. Fire Penetration is what I want to use for my 4th link, and then I'm not completely decided for my 5th link. I'll either use Elemental Focus or Faster Casting, but I'm going to want to do probably a little bit of testing to see which of those actually works the best. And then for my 6th link, it's either going to be then the opposite of Elemental Focus or Faster Casting, or possibly Controlled Destruction or Empower, depending upon the gems that I have available. And there'll probably be some testing to do for the 6th link to see which is going to be the most efficient. I'm planning on using a Marauder because I want to use the Chieftain Ascendancy class because it synergizes well with both my offensive and defensive plan. And the Chieftain Ascendancy class really allows us to be able to deal with fire damage, but because we're a Marauder, it also deals with armor and endurance charges, which synergize well with what I want to do offensively and defensively. And so for my offensive plan, what I want to do is I definitely want to get the Elemental Overload Keystone because it's a 40% more elemental damage multiplier, and since we're a non-crit build, that's a 40% damage boost. I'm also going to try and stack fire spell damage from tree and gear. And when I say this, I'm talking about spell damage on tree or gear, increased fire damage on the tree and gear, as well as increased elemental damage, because those all scale with the tags associated with Firestorm. I'm also going to need to get some cast speed where it's going to be efficient, and I'm also going to use frenzy charges as a way to stack both more cast speed, stack cast speed, because each frenzy charge gives us a 4% increased cast speed, and it gives us a 4% more damage multiplier per frenzy charge. And I'm planning on generating them through Blood Rage. And so the specific stats I'm looking for are 250% increased fire spell damage. From the tree, I'm looking specifically for 20% cast speed, and I want to get that Elemental Overload Keystone. Those are the 3 stats. The Elemental Overload I really see as a non-negotiable because how strong of its damage scaling is, but there might be a little bit of fluctuation with the cast speed or in the fire spell damage, just depending upon where I path and what I'm able to acquire. My defensive plan is I want to stack a large life pool as well as a large amount of life regen, which will allow me to run Blood Rage without degenning, so I can stack those frenzy charges. I want to make it armor based, and I'm planning on using a shield, and specifically a high armor shield like a Colossal Tower shield, or maybe like using what's it called, Lion Eyes something Pinnacle Tower shield, I can't think of it right now, but that high armor shield which gives life as well, and that'd be a good starter as well. But ultimately I want a rare one where it has 2 suffixes, so I can craft cast speed at Katarina for a 3rd one, so I can at least get a little bit of damage scaling from it. I also noticed that with the Chieftain Ascendancy, the Hinekora, I think is how you pronounce it, Death's Fury passive, I'm going to be able to get some fire damage leech, and so that's also going to help with being able to not only sustain my casting and everything, but whenever I'm taking large chunks of damage. And having a large life pool allows me to have a higher leech rate. And I'm also planning on stacking endurance charges as well. And the specific stats I'm shooting for are 215% increased life. I want to get at least 5% life regen and 125% increased armor. I'm pretty fixed on increased life. I might settle for a little bit less, but I really want to shoot for 215 or higher if possible. And similarly with the life regen 5%, I really kind of see as a minimum because I'll degen at 4% with Blood Rage, and I want to have at least a little bit of regen to help deal with degen maps. And then the armor might have more fluctuation. And the only special gear that I have in mind in creating this build is using the Clear Mind Unique Jewel because of how it can give us a big damage boost, 60% spell damage without reserving mana. And since we're blood magic, we don't reserve any mana, is a pretty big boost. And so if we go ahead and look at the offline skill tree planner, first thing I'm going to think about doing is, since we're going to be a spellcaster, this is all melee damage up here, so I'm just going to path down through the life nodes, and I want to get regen. In my first pass, I don't really worry about how many points I'm spending, I just want to get everything. So there's a bunch of life down here that I want to pick up, and blood magic, so I want to pick that up. We want to get fire damage. There's life over here. The Scion life wheel is really useful. Because I want to go into the Templar start, I pathed over to the Scion life wheel because it's going to allow me to be able to get into the Templar starting region. I want to path through here because the thing why I'm not taking the AoE is, even though it makes the radius of each of the explosions from the Firestorm bigger, the problem is they don't overlap as much, so your single target really suffers when you pick up a large amount of AoE. And so what I've noticed through testing is that concentrated effect still works well even without any real AoE increases. And so after this here, I want to path down and grab the life over here. Oh, I need 2-point jewel sockets. I want to pick those up as well because they're really efficient. And come up through Light Affinity. We'll get the 2 points up here, 2 points to go up to the Purity of Flesh cluster, and then we want to path over to Elemental Overload. And like I said, I'm not really paying attention to points at this case. I'm just trying to get all the useful nodes that I want. And so I want to get over here as well, because not only for the life, but there's good fire damage nodes over here. Okay, and so around this point we're about 109 points, so let's take a look at our stats. We got 162 armor, so we met that. We got 272 increased max life, and we have 5.1% life regen, so we've already hit our baseline stats, but we're a little over on points. So offensively we look, or defensively we look okay. Before we look at offensively, I just realized I haven't taken care of the Ascendancy, and since I wanted to get this Inakora Death's Fury notable because it gives me Fire Leech, I've got 2 more left, so I can either get this one, which is going to give me increased strength, some armor. We already hit armor, so that's no good. Increased strength is alright, but we're not really Iron Will based, so it's of minimal use. These are all totems. Bingo. Okay, this is what we want, because since we're also going to use endurance charges, this is going to allow us to get more value out of our endurance charges, because we get half percent of our life, maximum life regen per charge, and we get a 10% chance to gain endurance charges on kill. So we'll be able to keep this up with Enduring Cry as well as this passive ability here, and that'd be probably, this will be like our Merciless Ascendancy. We'd go for Inakora. Okay, so we have a ton of life. So let's look at our damage. 169 fire damage, 42, puts us a little over 200. So we got 255. We hit our 250 mark for attack and cast speed. We've got or for the spell damage. We hit our cast speed. Okay, so we hit all of our benchmarks pretty easily. But let's see if there's any way we can make this better. We have a 272 life. I mean, that's awesome. Makes you really tanky. But 109 points is kind of high. So if I'm up here at Elemental Overload, I'm still going to want to... what are my stats actually? Let's look at those. I only have 154 int, so I don't really want to cut out anything that's going to reduce my int, so I get 20 int here. I'm going to get a lot of int from this pathing, because otherwise I'm going to have to pick up like int nodes, or I'm going to need a lot of int on gear. So because... okay. What if, since I can spend 2 points here and remove these 2 points, and I can still get into the Templar start, I use 4 points to path over to the Scion Life Wheel, and that's 15, 30, 35, 49. Okay, so the Scion Life Wheel gives us 49% life, and that costs 8 points to get the full Scion Life Wheel, as well as 4 points to get over it. So it's effectively costing us 12 points for 49% life. So that's essentially about 4% life per node. And that's only okay. Like, these are 4% life per node, and they give us armor, and these are like 4% life nodes, but they give us some all res, and these give us some armor. These are 5%, like, so maybe, actually in this case, maybe the Scion Life Wheel actually isn't worth it. So what if we drop that? That still gives us 223 max life, so we're still plenty good on max life. We're at 96 points, so maybe we get like a little bit more damage, or once we get really good 3 property jewels, we could, instead of getting damage there, maybe we'll grab this jewel socket and this jewel socket, so we could have 4 jewel sockets, 1, 2, 3, and if we got like another really good jewel, maybe jewel sockets over there, this jewel socket as well. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3 points. And then yeah, if we end up getting this jewel socket, again, we've got immediate access to more life if we want to get life here. Yeah, this feels pretty solid. Wow, that was surprisingly quick, but I've also had a lot of familiarity in this region of the tree. It's also worth noting that our Ascendancy gave us some more regen, so we're not only at like 5.1, we're now at 6.6% life regen, and we get regen from our endurance charges, so this feels pretty awesome. So what I would do at this point is say, alright, this passive tree looks pretty good, I'm just going to go ahead and let it sit for right now, and I'm going to come back and take a look at it in like 2 hours or 3 hours after like I've stopped thinking about it for a while, so I could come back and look at it with a fresh set of eyes to see, is there a different set of pathing? Like maybe it's more efficient to go over and pick up the Scion Life Wheel and then path up along here so I get some regen and can get like this elemental cluster in this jewel socket and the jewel socket at the Scion start. I mean, I'd have to like try some other pathing out to see if there's any other way that I could optimize it further. I still don't think this is probably going to be better because it's so many points for pathing along here, and we're sort of on this, like, we're not on the outside but we're not quite on the inside like here. So yeah, I'd leave this alone for a bit, come back and look at it in a couple hours or a day or something like that and iterate it. So hopefully this was useful, helping you see like what it actually looks like to do some of this in practice. If you find yourself frequently hitting your benchmarks easily, you might increase them. See if you want to get more damage, increase the benchmark that you're looking for damage wise, or increase your life benchmark or your armor or evasion or whatever you're using for your defenses. Thanks for watching, and leave me any feedback you have about this in the comments.